Hey guys, today's video is going to be a step-by-step guide of how I created this really realistic looking eye. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you want to keep up to date with my tutorials. Okay, so the first thing I did was I created a really simple line sketch of the eye. I didn't include things like the eyelashes because it would just make it more complicated and it's quite unnecessary. The important thing is to make sure the angles of the important shapes of the eye are all in the right place. So spend time getting the angles right, but not necessarily in creating lots of detail at this point. Okay, so the first thing I did was I coloured in the entire pupil with a charcoal pencil. I'm using the same charcoal pencil for the entire piece just to make it simpler. I then outlined the iris where it's darker, and I used the charcoal pencil to make some little details. The iris contains lots of little lines, but make sure you don't go overboard with the lines. I then used the tortillon to shade in the iris, so to smooth out all those lines and also to create a general tone across the entire iris. As you can notice, the upper eyelid is covering the top portion of the iris, and the waterline is also covering parts of the lower iris, so you never really see the entire iris showing. I then used a cotton bud and some powdered charcoal to cover the white of the iris. Most of the shading is on the top and inner corner of the eye. The white of the eye is not completely white because there's shadows being cast from the eyelids, and you also need the shading to make the eye look spherical and rounded. I then went and added some additional details. As you can see, the iris does look quite dark now, but I'm going to be pulling out some highlights later on. Next, I go in with an eraser pencil and I just pull out some highlights. It is important to pull out highlights in the iris so that the iris looks reflective and quite shiny and watery. Go in and use a cotton bud to smooth out the harsh lines that are around the iris, because when the iris goes into the white of the eye, it's more of a blurred effect. I then start with the inner corner of the eye. I just rough out with the charcoal pencil where the darkness should go and blend that with a tortillon. It's important to use some highlighted regions in that inner corner of the eye because there's always normally some shine in that inner corner. So you need that to help it look realistic. With drawing the eye, it's all about building up the contrast, because sometimes you'll think you've gone dark enough and then as you complete other parts of the drawing, those parts seem lighter. So it's all about going back, adding detail and adjusting the contrasts. I then go and use the charcoal pencil to draw a line where the top crease is of the eyelids. And with this eye there was the main crease, but then there was some folds within it, and there was a few wrinkles as well. So I drew that main line in, and then I used a cotton wool bud, which is very good for shading, is some powdered charcoal. I knocked off the excess and rubbed it around till there wasn't much left on it, and then I rubbed that all under the brow bone, across the eyelid, and then under the waterline. So this helps to give you like a general tone, so then it's easier for you to judge how dark things need to be because you've got that base foundation tone in there. And then start to work on the crease and darken that up and add shadows, because with realistic drawing there isn't necessarily lots of harsh lines, it's always areas of shadow blurring into each other, so I wanted to blend it all out to make it look like there's smooth transitions. In this instance, I used the cotton wool to get a greater general tone, and then use the cotton wool bird to get in and do some more details in the skin. And I just go and adjust the contrast, darken up the crease of the eye because it looked too light. I very much jump around in the drawing. I don't work on one part and then go on to the other. It's just if I see something look slightly off, I'll then go and adjust the colour, adjust the contrast. I then start to work on under the waterline. I just sketch in some where the shadows are, needs to be a bit darker, and blend that out with cotton bud again. There were some wrinkles under her eyelids, so I made sure to include them to make it look more realistic. I then go in and block in the eyebrow. I block it in just generally at the start, don't worry about the hairs, just get in a general tone. Sketch that in. Doesn't matter if it looks too sketchy, if anything it helps with the texture of the hair. And then I go and blend that out with a cotton bud. And then just go and readjust the shadow under that eyebrow. Next, I move on to the eyelashes. For eyelashes, it's really important to make sure they're all going in the correct direction. However, you don't want all the eyelashes to go in the same direction. To make it look realistic, you want them to look not uniform. You want them to look like they're going in sometimes opposite directions, but you need a general direction with a few going against it. For the eyelashes, you also need to make it look like they're connecting from the right place. So as you can see, I left a bit of the waterline because they don't grow from under that waterline, it's just above it. With the top lashes, they are longer and there's a lot more of them than the bottom lashes. There's normally a lot more eyelashes towards the outer corner, and then they become gradually less as you get to the inner corner. Same with the bottom lash line. With the bottom lash line, the eyelashes are growing again under the waterline, so you have that waterline and they don't grow from the waterline, it's just under there. So with the eyelashes, they start thicker at the roots and then they go thinner at the end. It's good to have the eyelashes overlapping to create a lot of thickness. It's very important to include the waterlines to add some dimension. I then use a sharpened charcoal pencil and just add the hairs for the eyebrow. It's also important for the hairs to go in the correct direction, also for the eyebrow. So look at your reference photo carefully to make sure they're going in the correct direction. And you don't want them all going in the same direction. And they're also not straight, there's curve to them, so don't draw them as just straight lines. But I'll do a tutorial all about how to draw eyebrows in a lot more depth. I went in with an ink eraser pencil and just pulled out any additional highlights and details. So I used it to create the little wrinkles on the lower eyelids. This part of the drawing, it's all about doing final touch-ups, just adjusting all the contrast, adding any final details, and just to make sure everything looks like it's at the right contrast level and is dark enough, or the highlights are all in the right places, and just to clean up anything. I did use a darker charcoal pencil just to add, just for the pupils, the outer rim of the iris and the upper eyelashes, just because I thought it needed to look a bit darker. Also, the inner corner of the eye is also highlighted. Then go under the eyebrow and pull out the highlights there on the brow bone, because there's normally a highlight cast under the eyebrow. So all I did at this point was continue to add the details, just finish everything up, just add a bit more realism just by adding in little details like little rogue eyebrow hairs. The last thing I did was I went in with a white gel pen and just used that for the parts which were really highlighted, just to make it look more watery and realistic. And that's it for this tutorial. So if you like this tutorial, please give it a like, and if you are interested in seeing future tutorials like how to draw eyebrows or how to draw eyes in coloured pencils, then please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, thank you guys for watching and have a good day.